What's up guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, then an extra special welcome to you. My name is Beth and I make motherhood and lifestyle content here on YouTube. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some of the things that I am doing differently in my second pregnancy. There are a lot of videos on YouTube about things that people are doing differently with their second baby, and I am going to make one of those videos as well, but I thought that it would be fun to just do a video kind of talking about the way that I'm approaching pregnancy this time, because even though it hasn't been that long since the last time that I was pregnant, there are a number of things that I'm doing differently, and I just feel like my approach to pregnancy has changed a lot since my first pregnancy, and so I'm going to be sharing some of those just differences with you guys today. So I am a second time mom this time around. I currently have a baby girl, or I guess you could now say toddler. She's 12 months old, just turned 12 months old, and I am pregnant with my second baby. It is a baby boy, and he will be due, I think, just under 3 months now. So they will be 15 months apart, which is crazy, and I know it's going to be exciting, and my husband and I are just really looking forward to having the two under two and just navigating that challenge together. But as I mentioned, it has not been that long since my last pregnancy. I've been pregnant now 2 years in a row and only technically had like 7 months off from being pregnant before I got pregnant again. But with that being said, I feel like this time around, like having gone through it the first time, I know a little bit more about like how my body personally reacts to pregnancy. I know more about like my personal approach to things, and I feel like it just gave me an opportunity to figure out how I want to do this for real this time, knowing what to expect. So I'm going to share some of those things, and I hope that they can encourage you guys today. So the first thing that I am doing is really focusing on diet this time around. I didn't have like a crazy bad diet in my first pregnancy. I think that like on the whole as a person, I eat whole foods most of the time. We cook like 95% of our meals at home. But my first time around, there were two things that I did really differently. And the first is I really heavily relied on my prenatals to get the vitamins that my baby needed. And this time I'm not doing that as much. I'm still taking a prenatal, it's still important to me, but this time around, I think that I've just taken the pressure off of that a little bit. I don't panic so much if there's a day or a moment that I actually miss the prenatal, because I know that I'm focusing on giving my baby really whole foods, and that primarily that is the way that they're going to get what they need to be able to develop really well. The second way that this kind of like manifests is in my first pregnancy, I definitely did capitalize on the cravings thing. And also, I think sometimes did take pregnancy as a license some of the time to like eat whatever and indulge and go send my husband to get me this and go send him to get that. And don't get me wrong, I think that there is a lot of room to still indulge and like do some of those things, but I would say to not do that any more than you normally would if you weren't pregnant, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to do this time around is pay attention to the cravings, because I think that the cravings actually are signals to your body of what you need and what baby needs, but I'm trying to find healthier alternatives to actually meet some of those cravings. So for example, I've really been craving sweet stuff in this pregnancy. In my first with my daughter, I craved a lot of salty foods, but this time it's really sweets. So what I'm trying to do is eat a lot of fruit. I'll take banana or apple and I'll put natural peanut butter on that, maybe sprinkle a little bit of chocolate chips on there. And that is kind of some of the ways that I'm meeting some of those cravings, and just paying attention to how my body is feeling, but not taking that as a license to just go crazy, because ultimately you're not going to feel as good as if you actually listen to your body and met those cravings with whole foods. And there's going to be a lot more nutrients in those whole foods as well. So definitely still have room to indulge here and there, but on the whole, I am trying to be more conscious with the way that I approach my cravings this time around. So the next thing that I am doing differently is really paying attention to the way that my body feels and being a lot more respectful of that. So for one thing, I'm stretching a lot more in this pregnancy than I was in my first pregnancy. I'm trying to make time to do it every single day, because I find that just like keeping my muscles loose has been so helpful, especially now that I'm 26 weeks. I know I'm going to continue to get bigger, and so keeping that mobility is really important to me. But in my first pregnancy, I also tried to do a lot of kind of weightlifting and similar workouts to what I was doing before I got pregnant, because although that is an okay thing to do, as long as you were doing it before you got pregnant, that's kind of like the rule for how much like physical activity you're doing. I feel like I put a lot of expectation to keep some of that stuff up and would push myself even if it didn't feel like good or right for my body. And so I think that that honestly probably did contribute to a lot of the ab separation that I had. I think ab separation to some degree is kind of inevitable, but I would do things that like I think just pushed myself a little too hard. And so this time around, I'm really focusing on listening to my body, stretching, Pilates, going for walks, things like that to make sure that I'm still staying active, because staying active is so important by the time that you actually get to labor and delivery. And believe me when I say that after you have your baby, like the more active that you've been leading up to it, the better you will feel postpartum as well. So I'm still trying to maintain a lot of that physical exercise, but it just looks a little bit differently for me than it did the first time around. So this next one for me has honestly been the most freeing of all of the things that I'm doing differently this time around. And it's hard to get to this place unless you've already had the experience the first time. But I'm putting a lot less just emotional and mental energy and worry into the way that my body looks and the way that I feel like self-image wise and body image wise as my body changes. In my first pregnancy, I did know that stretch marks were inevitable, that if you were gonna get them, you were gonna get them, but I did work really hard to not get them. And as much as I had that in the back of my mind of like, understanding that it could still happen, I think I was still really disappointed when I did get them. Whatever ends up happening to my body is so not the point. Like it's really not that deep the way that I look to other people. Other people don't care. My husband still loves me. I can still love me. I can set a good example for my kids. So I think that I've just like let a lot of that pressure to maintain what I looked like go, because honestly, like when I had my first baby, that postpartum stage when I started to feel like myself again and just like had the appreciation for what my body had gone through, I never in my life felt more confident in my body at that point. And so it just goes to show that like it doesn't matter like what you look like or what point you think you're gonna get to where all of a sudden you're gonna be satisfied with your body. That point like genuinely won't come unless you just decide to be happy with what you look like today. So stretch marks wise, seeing the number on the scale go up this time, I'm just feeling a lot less worry about a lot of that stuff. I'm dwelling on it less. I'm Googling like, what is an acceptable amount of weight gain for the stage that I'm at? A lot less. I'm focusing on exercising and getting the right nutrients in all, just like taking better care of myself this time, because I deserve it. My husband deserves it, like through me, because I'm better when I'm less insecure and more confident. It's better for my family. So I think that's one of the biggest things that's different this time, is just the way that I have mentally approached my body changing. So this next thing on my list is one that I'm genuinely just like so excited about and have already started doing, and it's that I'm speaking and thinking positively about birth this time around. As much as I would say that I didn't have like a negative perception going into birth last time, I think I did carry a lot of fear about it. I think I wanted it to happen as soon as possible. I think that I was free to kind of let birth go however a doctor said that it needed to go or things like that. But this time I think that I am going to be a lot more intentional about like not just the birth plan, but my birth experience in general. My first pregnancy, my birth plan was very loose. I ended up actually opting with my OB for an induction before my due date because our baby girl was big. But this time around, I know that I can birth a big baby. Like, I don't need to get an induction. I don't need to kind of induce labor before my baby is ready. This time around, I'm just like believing and trusting God that this birth experience is honestly going to be beautiful and life-changing and incredible, and just like almost prophesying that in advance has gotten me so excited about it. It's coloring the way that I'm thinking about it in a new way. It's allowing me to actually enjoy this process of being pregnant a lot more and not dread the thought of third trimester or birth, because I'm just honestly so looking forward to it and to that stage and welcoming a new baby, because I love the newborn stage. So I just feel like all in all, like the approach to birth has changed a lot more. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to be sharing my birth plan on social media, just because I haven't decided on it yet, A, but also B, because I know that having a lot of like that feedback from just a lot of people can also make it hard to just trust what you decide to do, and it's such a personal thing. So I haven't decided on that yet, but I will say that just in general this time around, like my entire disposition towards birth is a lot different, and I'm just really, really excited to be able to go through that experience again. So the next thing that I'm doing differently this time around is not buying a bunch of things for the baby that are unnecessary or things that we don't need. I did post a video kind of talking about newborn products that you don't need a couple of months back after having my first daughter, and I genuinely still stand behind everything that I said in that video. Babies don't need much. I'm really excited because we do have a lot of clothes that we purchased for our daughter that were gender neutral, and now I get to reap the benefits of that because I will be continuing to use all of that clothing with our second baby boy. So I think that like there will be a few key things that I'll buy, and I'll probably do a video on what that will look like. But again, I want to keep it really minimal. There were so few things that I did actually reach for in that initial stage. And so what I'm going to be spending more of my money on this time around actually leads me into the next point. And that is that this time around, I am investing a lot more in like my personal pregnancy and postpartum self-care, because I think that last time I spent so much on like making sure that I had toys for her room and that everything looked cute, and I got the most expensive swaddles and burp cloths and all of these different things, and I didn't really make that investment into myself. For example, I wore like these Amazon nursing bras that were like fraying and not even like holding my boobs in place for a lot of my postpartum experience. And this time around, it's just like, girl, invest like back into yourself a little bit more. Postpartum is hard, and you're going through so many challenges, like emotionally and physically, recovery wise, and you've got this new baby here. And so I just feel like this time around, I'm going to just take stock of some of the things that I remember being like kind of subpar in my first experience, like nursing bras, my nursing pillow I didn't love, and really just make sure that those are the areas that I'm really prioritizing to make that experience a lot smoother for myself this time around. When it comes to pregnancy, I've also been more conscious of investing in the right supplements, so things like magnesium, taking a prenatal that doesn't actually make me nauseous this time, so I'll link some of the ones that I've tried and have found have worked for me in the description box. I got the world's best pregnancy pillow from BB Hug Me, and last time I borrowed a pregnancy pillow from a friend, and I'm so grateful that I had it, but it was so big and I found that I couldn't really get comfortable with it. The one that I have this time around was like certainly an investment, but it's so nice to be able to bring it with me on the couch and use it like in just other contexts around the house. So I'm prioritizing a lot more in like allowing myself to be comfortable this time and not feeling guilty for that, which has honestly been a really good feeling as well. The last thing that I am doing differently this time around is honestly kind of hard to put into words, but I feel like it is really a disposition towards pregnancy in general, and it's that I'm not treating pregnancy this time as much of a constraint or something that holds me back or that is worthy of complaining about all the time or just having a negative attitude towards or wishing it away, if that makes sense. I have just like such an appreciation for pregnancy and what happens during pregnancy, and I think because I had a baby girl already and just going through that whole process and then seeing what came from that, not only in the newborn stage, but also just in this past year of her life. This time around, I'm just trying to be a lot more grateful for pregnancy at each stage of the journey, although it is hard. Of course, first trimester is super, super hard. Second trimester is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I think a lot of people can agree that like second trimester is like the stage where You feel a lot more yourself and a lot more of your energy comes back. But even going into third trimester again this time around, I don't want to like just spend that entire chunk of time like sitting around and complaining about being pregnant or wishing it away, because I feel like now that I'm in my second pregnancy, more than ever I have this understanding that like this is a season of life, and there are going to be seasons in my life when I look back at this stage, and honestly I could cry talking about it because I'm hormonal, but there's gonna be seasons of life where I look back and I just like so desire the feeling of a baby kicking inside me, or so desire just that stage of life where I was growing my children and I had the opportunity to do that. And it really is like such a blessing to be able to do. And so I know that that can sound really frilly and frou-frou when you're in the thick of it. Believe me, I've been in the thick of it too, but I think it really is a perspective shift of just being understanding of like how limited this time is in the grand scheme of your life, like how minimal the amount of time that you actually will spend pregnant is overall. And I'm just enjoying every moment of it. And I am going to come back to this when I'm in third trimester and I'm like swollen and on the couch not wanting to move. I think like overall just treating it as if it is a blessing and not again as like a constraint or a negative thing will change your disposition towards the entire experience overall. Well, that is all for the things that I'm doing differently in this pregnancy. Of course, things could change, things could shift from here. Again, I just want to emphasize that like I don't want to sugarcoat things or have like this false positivity with how women approach pregnancy, because what I do think is really important is also coupling that with the just honesty that has come out with pregnancy and postpartum and motherhood, especially online and on social media in the last couple of years. I think a lot of those honest conversations have been so helpful for new moms, especially myself, knowing what to prepare for. But that being said, I do think that we as a society can do really large pendulum shifts kind of back and forth. So while we were maybe all super positive and upbeat and sugarcoating everything in one stage, I think we've gone a little bit too far in some ways down the line of just talking about how hard everything is, and some of these accounts that are literally just like harping on motherhood, harping on pregnancy, talking about why this is the worst thing ever and we should never have had kids and all of this stuff. It's like, it's so important to have a balanced perspective as people when we can hold two of these things in tension of like, yes, motherhood is really, really challenging and hard, and pregnancy can be hard and birth can be hard, but it's also so beautiful, so rewarding, and pregnancy is included in that. It's all kind of wrapped up together. So I hope that it can encourage you today if you are pregnant or maybe praying to become pregnant soon, or I don't know, maybe you're just watching this for fun. Whatever boat you are in, I hope that this video can encourage you, can just bring you a little bit of light in your pregnancy journey. If you are pregnant, I would love to know when you guys are due, how far along you are, so let me know in the comments section, and I would love to connect with some of you guys. But until my next video, I would love if you could like this one because it does really help my channel. But I will be continuing to pray for you guys, and I will see you soon.